morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Tullahoma. Welcome to those of you that are in church in person, on Zoom, and live streaming. So today is Sunday, April 2nd. So for an opening reading, I had a request from Carrie and John to do some quotes that talk about inspiration in hard times and the value of joy and laughter. So I have 5 different short quotes I'm going to read as an opening reading. And the first is a Jewish proverb. As soap is to the body, so laughter is to the soul. Second comes from Norman Cousins. Laughter is a form of internal jogging. It moves your internal organs around. It enhances respiration. It is an igniter of great expectations. Third is from Plato. Even the gods love jokes. And the fourth is an American journalist, Linda Elberby. I have always felt that laughter in the face of reality is probably the finest sound there is, and will last until the day when the game is called on account of darkness. In this world, a good time to laugh is any time you can. And finally, this one comes from a fellow Tennessean, Dolly Parton. The way I see it, if you want the rainbow, you gotta put up with the rain. So, there we have our opening reading. We'll now go to the chalice lighting. And if somebody at church would light the chalice, I'll light one here, and Kath will do the reading.
For the gift of this day, and for our community here at UU in Tullahoma, of our spiritual nurture, compassion, and humor, we give thanks. We light this chalice as a symbol of our faith. May our many sparks meet and merge in communion of heart and soul.
We now move to announcements. So if you have an announcement, raise your hand and we'll get that up. Anybody at church have an announcement? Harry.
I have an apology to make. The newsletter is late, and I am sorry.
All right. And Tom?
I am looking at a bunch of poetry books. I've got a lot more in the truck, and I'll be bringing them over the night of when we do our writing group here, and that'll be the second Thursday, 6 to 8 or so. But there are poetry books on the corner thing over here, which is a corner cabinet, and so if you want one, go take it. And if you know somebody that would benefit from them, take it and pass it on. So there you go. And there'll be more
Poetry books.
poetry
Okay, thank you, Tom. Rick?
Yeah, the Wednesday night group, which emerged from the Thursday night group, is now focusing on a book. I believe it's called Changing Your Mind or something to that effect. And we've had a pretty good attendance, so we're doing a combined group meeting. Several are here to church at 7 p.m. Others of us are on Zoom. And it's a mind-opening book. And anyway, I won't say much more than that, but y'all come. We get started really about 7:15 to allow the Zen folk to kind of clear out. But again, a combined meeting. Please come. Goes for about 2 hours.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Other announcements? Costa?
I just have a comment in response to Carrie's statement, that we all give ourselves grace for what we are contributing, and that we're never falling short if we're always making an effort, that there are a lot of responsibilities being done by a few people, and we all have lives and jobs and family obligations, And your newsletters are wonderful, Carrie, so whenever we get them, we will enjoy it.
Thank you very much, Costa, for that. Yes, great.
Yeah, to follow up with Costa's lead, we have put together a volunteer group of 4 and to help with the housekeeping and set up and take down around the service. And I'd like to have a quick organizational meeting after the service, and everybody's here. I think you know who you are already, so I won't run through it. I think everybody's here, and we could use some more, but thank you for those who have.
All right, thank you. Any other? Yes, Carrie.
We have an outreach committee meeting following the church service, or the following talk back here in the building. We wanted to go to a place where we could all eat together, but other people, some people just won't be able to go, so we're just gonna have it here.
Okay, so that'll be on Zoom as well?
Yeah, on Zoom, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? Okay, yes, Tom.
There's a little bit of confusion on whether potluck is the last Sunday
Yeah.
or the 4th Sunday, and I think it's the last Sunday, not the 4th. It could be the 4th, but
Sometimes it is.
sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't, but the last Sunday is always gonna be the last Sunday.
All right,
Right.
thank you. All right, I have a couple of announcements. So if you want to support the church financially, you can do so by writing a check, sending it to the Union Church Tullahoma, P.O. Box 331 in Tullahoma. The zip is 37388, or you can drop cash or a check in the little box in the back of the room. And also, as has been mentioned earlier, we will have 3 board vacancies coming up. And those are the first vice president for programs, the second vice president of buildings and grounds, and the religious education coordinator. So we do need people to step up, fill those vacancies, volunteer and serve on the board for your church, so that we can keep running smoothly. Without those positions filled, it's going to be real challenging to move forward. So that is it for announcements.
Can I make one quick comment? We're all strapped in terms of what's happening to us, what we're doing, the things we're involved in. And there's a little saying, I won't tell you who the author was, but you might guess, that if it's really worth doing, it's worth doing poorly. Now think about that for a minute, and then it says something that it doesn't have to be perfect, okay? And sometimes we can knock ourselves out by trying to make everything perfect. So, anyway, that's it. It's worth doing poorly.
Okay, thank you.
Well said.
All right, now it's time for a song that Lucy will play for us.
Is it 132?
132.
132.
Go.
Let's try it again.
you, Lucy. And now we move to our responsive reading and then our speaker. So the responsive reading is from Chief Seattle, and the title is We Belong to the Earth. This we know, the earth does not belong to us. We belong to the earth.
This we know. All things are connected like the blood which unites one family.
All things are connected.
Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons and daughters of the earth.
We did not weave the web of life. We are merely a strand in it.
Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves.
Now it's time for our speaker. So today, John Lynch is speaking to us, and I believe his title is Humor and Healing.
Thank you, Jim. This week in Tennessee has been really kind of grim, and it's really caused me to do a lot of thinking about this title and this program, and the struggle is, it's been so sad to see six people get killed in a school shooting, 9 service members get killed in a helicopter accident at Fort Campbell, and also earlier this month, 6 young people get killed in a rollover accident near the interstate highway up in, I think it was Robertson County, but anyhow, it's rather grim news, and I'm not sure whether this is appropriate to do this morning. And so I've wrestled with it. I've talked with Carrie about it. Carrie's got some things that she's going to read to kind of set the tone of the program this morning. So Carrie, if you want to.
That's okay.
You want to come up here? You want to
No, that's fine. Through humor, you can soften some of the worst blows that life delivers. And once you find laughter, no matter how painful your situation might be, you can survive it. Difficult times, cope with the difficult times, enjoy the good times, and manage the scary times. Every time you're able to find some humor in a difficult situation, you win. Hard times are like a washing machine. They twist and turn and knock us around, but in the end we come out cleaner, brighter, and better than before.
Thank you, Carrie. Well, yesterday was April Fool's Day, and I was looking forward to this being an April Fool's event here at the UU Church in Tullahoma, so let's proceed with it. First of all, I'd like to read you some things that you can do to maintain a healthy level of insanity. So first of all, at lunchtime, go out, sit in your parked car, point a hairdryer at oncoming traffic and see how many slow down. Also, when you go to McDonald's or other places with the drive-in, make sure you specify this is to go. Or you can call the psychic hotline, and when they answer the phone, just say yes. And also, finally, when you go to an ATM machine, many of us do that frequently, say, I won! It's the 3rd time this week. Back to a little bit more serious stuff, though. This is about a man who drove a truck, and cars are getting to where they drive themselves, and you don't have to pay much attention to it. So are trucks. This is about a truck driver who was driving down the highway, involved in his favorite new pastime, and that was knitting. He enjoyed knitting. So he was knitting as the truck was going down the highway, and the highway patrolman sees this going on, and that the guy doesn't have his hands on the steering wheel or anything, and he turns on his blue light to try and stop him. Well, of course, the truck driver is so involved in his knitting, he doesn't see that, and he keeps on going, knitting away. And the highway patrolman then turns on his siren and tries to stop him. Still, cannot get anything from the guy. Finally, the Tennessee highway patrolman pulls into the side of the truck, rolls his window down and says, pull over, and the guy says, no, it's a cardigan.
Pull over. The shirt is made of not pull over the shirt, it's a cardigan.
They get better.
This is a good opportunity for someone in the congregation. Carrie is good at spotting people. I'm going to ask her to be my spotter for me, just to see if anybody's got a story they want to tell.
Tom raised his hand.
Tom?
Well, this has got a preamble and it's got a postlude or something, I guess. My favorite all-time joke, somebody had told me this joke, and we were about bicycling around out near the Motlow Road that goes from 41A over to Motlow. And then we just pulled off to the side of the road, sat there for a while, and we started telling jokes. And the joke goes something like this. There was this guy actually two guys, that decided they were going to crash a party somewhere. But they didn't know exactly where it was, but all the cars out in front of the house, got to be a party going on, so they crashed it. Unfortunately, they got too imbibed a little bit too much, and both of them knew that they had really made a terrible disaster out of this. But so the next day, they get up and they said, Bob, let's go, we'll see if we can't find this house. And he says, the thing I remember, it had this beautiful door knocker on the front. It was gold, it was really beautiful. And I think I remember that. This is great. So they went along and they went through the kind of the ritzy part of town, and sure enough, they found this house with this beautiful gold door knocker. So they go up and knock on the door, and the lady of the house comes and says, Lady, did you have a party last night? He says, yes, we did. He says, we know we made absolute fools out of ourselves, and just want to apologize and really compliment him on your wonderful house. And he says, the thing that really impressed me was the golden commode. And the wife says, hey, Fred, I think I found the culprit. Think about it. Okay. Bad. I got one more, and then I'll quit. So the postlude, I guess, on that though, is that was told to me by Bob Crook. Now, some of you might know Bob. Bob was a bicycle rider, and so was I. In fact, we're both all the starters of the bike club in town here, years and years and years ago. So, but anyway, Bob knew every joke. You ask Bob, how many camel jokes are there? Well, there's really just 4, and he'll rattle them off for you, or pick a subject, if you know a joke about it. He's the guy I wish we could have here today, but unfortunately Bob passed a few years back. And but he would, about maybe once a month, I'd meet him in the hall somewhere, and he said, Tom, did I ever tell you the story about the door knocker? Or, he would, like I'd never heard of it before, and I would just crack up because this was a routine. It was something that I really enjoyed. So there's more than one way to deliver a joke, so that was one of them. And one more, if you don't mind. Do I have time? Go for it? Okay. The second one, Roberta told me about this one, is you all know about Murphy's Law, right? Yeah. What can go wrong will go wrong, and then there's a little corollary to that Murphy was an optimist, And do you all know about Cole's Law? It's cabbage, carrots, and mayonnaise.
Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Well, I'm going to proceed, first of all, and read some stuff I've downloaded from Wikipedia about April Fool's Day, because I think it would be good for us to kind of know where April Fool's Day came from, what the origin of it is. But anyhow, The origins of April Fool's Day reach back to 46 BCE. That's when Julius Caesar instituted. I'm having trouble reading this morning, so I'm going to have to hold this a little bit closer. Sorry about that. Unfortunately, Julius Caesar's system miscalculated the length of the year by 11 minutes. And over the period of 2,000 years almost, by the mid-1500s, the calendar was nearly 2 weeks behind. So in 1582, Pope Gregory XIII introduced the new calendar, which would be bring the feast of Easter back in sync with the natural order of things. The Julian calendar, the new year began with the spring on April the 1st, and people who were slow to get the news or failed to get the news about the new Gregorian calendar continued to celebrate the beginning of the year during the first week of April, and therefore they were called April Fools. Britain's adaptation to the Gregorian calendar sparked near riots and protests in England. England didn't do this until 1752, and according to an act of Parliament, that it advanced the calendar from September the 2nd to September 14th. Rioters took to the streets demanding, "We want our 11 days back." And on the other side of the Atlantic, however, Benjamin Franklin welcomed the change, and he wrote, "It's a pleasant thing for an old man to go from September 2nd and not have to go to bed on September 2nd and not have to wake up until September the 14th. Franklin's approach to things is probably healthier according to the Mayo Clinic. Here's some things that from the Mayo Clinic, that again, this is Wikipedia stuff, but it's about the health benefits of laughter. When it comes to relieving stress, more giggles and guffaws are just what the doctor ordered, and here's why. When you're guffawing or at a sitcom on TV or quietly giggling into a newspaper cartoon, laughing does you good. Laughter is a great form of stress relief, and that's no joke. A good sense of humor can cure all sorts of ailments, but data is mounting about the positive things laughter can do. Okay, this is a good opportunity again to get some of those jokes from the congregation, so got to pause for another joke from the congregation. Who's got something?
There's someone
Yeah, on
Barb?
YouTube, on Zoom.
Who's it?
Barb,
Barb on Zoom? What is your story?
you're muted.
You're muted, that's the story.
That's my story. I'm actually a terrible joke teller. I almost always will either flub up the get it going, or I'll forget it altogether. So I don't do jokes very well. Most people, if I start to tell a joke that know me, start laughing before I even start the joke, knowing I'm going to flub it up. But I do have a story that is for real, and it involves my mother and my sister Kylie, my sister Sharon, and me. We were traveling. We were on our way to Sweden, but we had a couple days in Copenhagen, and we decided to go to a museum, and Sharon and Mom decided to take a cab, which was quite a ways from our hotel, and Colleen and I decided that we wanted to get the lay of the land, so we decided to walk to the museum. So on our way to the museum, Colleen has the area map, the city map, and we get to this fairly busy intersection, and Colleen's looking at the map, and she said, if I just knew what street we were on. So wanting to really help her out, I looked around, And I finally saw the sign and I said, Kelly, we're on Tullahoma Street. And she looked at the sign and then she looked at me and she started laughing. She said, Barb, that's toilet. And we both proceeded to laugh. We couldn't cross the street. We had to back up to the building. And I just cracked up thinking, how could I have mistaken it? But Colin memorialized it by taking a picture of that sign, which was on a lamppost, and it looked like a street sign to me. So we are very much in favor of traveling on Tullahoma Street.
I think sometimes we've all been down that street. I've got something that my buddy Rick, he goes to Daddy Billy's on occasion, and he tells me the story about the three-legged dog that came in Daddy Billy's and said, I'm looking for the man who shot my paw.
That's like,
And if you've never heard that one before.
And then there are the two Eskimo. Okay, I'll tell you what I'll do. Gene, you got your hand up back there. Go ahead and tell us what your story is.
Well, one of them was the fact that when Tom said he was going to tell a joke about a camel, I thought, no, this is church, Tom. You can't tell that joke. And then it was relief. So anyway, this guy was in a grocery store shopping, and he saw this really beautiful lady. And she waved at him and said hello. And he said, do I know you? And the only thing he could think about was his bachelor party, where he drank too much and things got out of hand, because she said, I think you're the father of one of my kids. And that's when he told that story. And then she said, no, I'm your son's math teacher.
son is man.
There was a group of kids at a school, and the school teacher said today that we're going to talk about history. And I'd like for y'all to tell me if any of you know who said, give me liberty or give me death. And this really bright young girl yelled it out and said it was Patrick Henry in 1775. And the teacher said, very good. Who said, government of the people, by the people, and for the people shall not perish from the earth. And she raised her hand and spoke up again and said, Abraham Lincoln, 1863. And the teacher snapped at the class and said, class, you should be ashamed. Suzuki, who is new to our country, knows more about history than you do. And there was a loud whisper, and somebody said, screw the Japanese. And the teacher said, who said that? And the Suzuki jumped up and said, Lee Iacocca in 1950. And then a student in the back said, I think I'm going to puke. And the teacher said, all right now, who said that? And Suzuki jumped up and said, George Bush, to the Japanese Prime Minister.
Oh,
And
yeah.
another student yelled, said, oh, screw this. And the teacher said, who said that? And he said, never mind. Forget that. Now the mob got hysterical and screamed, you little puke, I'm going to kill you. And she frantically jumped up and said, Gary Condit, Levy in 2001, and the teacher fainted, and as the class gathered around the teacher on the floor, someone yelled, oh, we're in big trouble. And Suzuki said, Arthur Anderson in 2002.
Thank you. Thank you, Gene.
I'm kind of
Rick,
hit these
you got your
before I
hand
read.
up back there? Don, wait a minute. Billy, you had your hand up.
This might sound a little off topic, but I try to be very skeptical. Anything that's being said, unless it's based on a reputable source or scientific basis, I just can't buy it. One summer in 1988, I went to the UTSI library, all the science stuff. So I picked up the Scientific America. Let me see if I can. You get the gist. The Scientific America had this amazing article in the computer section, ancient rope and pulley computer unearthed in a jungle near New Guinea. And this guy, it's an extensive article, and these rope and pulleys were laid out, they're sort of rotten, but they're laid out in about a 5-acre area, and they put them together, and you can see here the ropes and pulleys laid out, and this guy deciphered all the Boolean algebra that goes to making a computer. And you can see here how detailed it is, and you could actually make a real computer out of this thing. I think it dated back 950 AD, and you can just see that you could actually make a computer out of ropes and pulleys. And I mean, that's very detailed. And so at that time, I'd be requested to go to the high school and give them ideas for a science fair project. And I did this many times because I thought, man, wouldn't that be cool to make a rope computer? I don't know how the heck you do it, but it's all detailed there. And you know Andrew Jackson out of the base,
Right.
mathematician. The time I told him about it, and he was fascinated too. About 2 years ago, he called and he said, Bill, I didn't think about that. Do you know where that island was off the coast of New Guinea? It was spelled A-P-R-A-P-H-U-L. Aprofulia. The issue was April 1st. I've been had.
That's very appropriate, very appropriate. Meg, can you top that?
Let's see, probably not. But my short story comes from my brother and my father, who was a lawyer and a judge and an alcoholic, which the spirits are with us. He has passed into that world, and so he's here today, and he would tell you that himself because he got honest about that. But anyway, what he bequeathed to me and my siblings was a rich trove of storytelling material, which I'll just have to share the longer stories with you when we all have a beer. But this little story comes from an interaction that he had with my brother when he was about 9 or 10 years old, an innocent time in the mid-60s when kids got together on their bicycles and rode off to God knows where, and nobody fully knew. But at this particular time, my brother and his kid friends are out on their bikes way out south of Manchester, where the American Legion Hall was. Nowadays, it's become several other things, but at that time, the American Legion was out there kind of by itself, and out by Zaxby's, what's now Zaxby's and Al White Motors and all. But anyway, these kids are on their bikes out that way, and they notice that the door, the plate glass door, is painted over. You can't see in. And it says on the door, private club, members only. Well, this was a time in the mid-60s, this county was dry. And, but these are innocents, functionally. And they're not thinking of anything except this lettering on the door about a club and members and privacy, and they're thinking of forts in the woods and no girls allowed, and club for that kind of thing. Well, this wording on the door intrigues my brother, and he's curious about that. But so later that night, or some later time, he asked my daddy. He says, "Daddy, what do you have to be to go in the American Legion Club?" My father very succinctly says, "Thirsty."
Thirsty. Thank you, Meg. And I'll testify, Meg does have a lot more stories. She's got a bunch of them. Anybody? Lisa?
Yes, so Harlan Sanders of Lynchburg has a bowl full of these eggs, and he's giving out jokes for Easter. So I have no idea what's in the egg, but there's a joke in here, and on the label it says "crack a joke." Oh, and a piece of candy. So it says, question: what do you do with Santa's reindeers? What do Santa's reindeers say when they fly backwards? Oh, 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 instead of ho, ho, ho.
Thanks, Colonel Harlan Sanders there. Well, let's see where we are in our, again, two Eskimos were their boat, they were fishing and got really cold, so they decided they would build a fire right in the middle. And of course that didn't work out too well and the boat sank. Just goes to show you, you can't have your kayak and heat it too. Oh, yeah. That's called a groaner.
That's from the grown-ups.
When Bob Crook would tell a joke and Jerry Maddie was there, Jerry Maddie would go, "Durr," and that was the two of them. Just that would have been a good drum roll right there. Rib shot.
Okay.
Cass has her hand up.
Who
Cass.
Who?
Cass.
Cass, tell us a story.
Yeah. Hi there. This joke actually comes by way of Johnny Depp about another famous actor. And he was in an interview after he had made a film with Robert De Niro. And the person interviewing said, well, what's your opinion of Robert De Niro? And he said, I adore that man. He says he's incredibly funny, but man, it keeps you off guard all the time. He said it makes it really hard to act with him because you never know what's going to happen or which way he's coming from. He said, like for instance, he said, one of the last times that we were, waiting for the next scene to start and we were sitting in the background, he said, sometimes Bob would tell you things that you really needed to know. And he said, and Bob came running up to him and said, oh, I've got something really important to tell you. And Johnny listened up and he said, the problem is you really need to think though. And then Bob said, well, let's see, where do I start? It started in a bar, and a man was sitting at the bar drinking a beer, and he heard a commotion in the background, and he turned around and looked, and there was a skeleton walking in the door, and he was stunned. But that skeleton walked straight up to the bar, and he said, I'll have a beer and the bomb. And then Johnny said, Bob walked away. Think.
Beer and a bomb.
M-O-P.
Mom.
Oh.
That's funny.
But if the skeleton drinks the beer, it just goes.
Skeleton drinks a beer.
So Terry has his hand up on screen.
On screen. Jerry. Terry.
Okay, so this is one of my favorite jokes of all time. The traveling salesman approaches the farmer's house, knocks on the door, the farmer comes up, says, can I help you? And the salesman says, in a minute, he says, but I'm very curious. He says, as I'm walking up your drive, I look in your pasture, and there's a pig with 3 legs. Tell me about that pig. And the farmer says, oh, son, said I had that pig about a year. He says, I was out in my pasture, and I turned my tractor over, and he said, that pig ran over and pulled me out from under that tractor, saved my life. And the salesman says, okay, but what can you tell me about the pig? He's only got 3 legs. And the farmer says, about a year after he saved me under my tractor, he said, my son was ice skating on my pond, fell through the ice, and that pig ran out there and saved my son, pulled him out of the water and got him to safety. And the salesman says, okay, but that's not telling me what I need to know. And the farmer says, oh, said last year, the wife was cooking fried chicken and she fainted. And he said the pig came in and revived her. He said if he hadn't revived her, probably would have caught the house on fire from a grease fire. Said, saved my house. And the salesman says, okay, I understand that. You know, he said, your life, your son's life, your wife's life. Why does the pig only have 3 legs? And the farmer says, well, son, you don't eat a hog like that all at one time.
Okay, yeah, let's see, where am I? I'm gonna have to get a new pair of glasses.
Middle of a pig
We're
joke.
talk here, folks. Oh, yeah, this one, this next one here, it goes to all those who are engineers or know engineers or know of engineers. This engineer passes away and goes to heaven. And he goes up to the pearly gates, and St. Peter's there, looks at the man's dossier and says, I'm sorry, we can't let you in heaven. You have to go down to the hell. And so the engineer goes down to hell, and sure enough, there's Satan and everybody waiting for him, and it's hot as hell, as they say. But the engineer, being an engineer, he decided he would make some improvements in hell. So he put in air conditioning, put in escalators, and put in a lot of other improvements in hell, and Satan is just delighted about this. And God finds out that this has happened, and God calls up Satan on the big holy telephone, and he says, Satan, I hear you got one of my engineers down here. You're going to have to send him back up here. And Satan says, no way, this man has improved all kinds of stuff. We've got escalators, air conditioning, and all kinds of things that are down here. And I'm not sending him back. And God said, well, okay, I tell you what, if you don't send him back, I'll sue. And Satan looks at the phone and says, yeah, and tell me where you're going to find a lawyer.
Is there a lawyer in this?
There's some long-term effects of laughter. This is, this is from Wikipedia. No, it's not. It's from the website. Here's some long-term effects to improve your immune system. Negative thoughts. I can't read this. I'm sorry. I'm having trouble reading. We're going to have to... I just cannot. I'm having trouble reading today. I can tell you some jokes, though. I've got enough notes I can tell you about the bull who was having trouble. The farmer's bull was having trouble doing his business and with the cows and repopulating the cow population. And so the farmer goes to the vet and gets some medicine for it. And the bull, turns out he really did a good job. He came back and he serviced all of the cows on the farm. And also he got so excited the bull broke down the fence, broke into the neighbor's farm and serviced those cows also. And the friend of the farmer was telling this story. He says, well, tell me, what was in those pills that the vet gave your bull? And the farmer says, you know, I'm not sure, but they tasted a little bit like peppermint. And here's another farmer joke. This one's about a mule that had long ears, and when the farmer, a very smart mule, very serviceable mule, very strong, but the problem was every time the farmer would try to get the mule to come into the barn at night, his ears would touch the top of the door and the mule would back up and wouldn't go in. So the farmer and his sons decided they would raise the barn about 2 or 3 feet. So they started working on the foundation of the barn, trying to make it raise the barn up some. Well, anyhow, the neighbor came over and saw what was going on. He said, look, you know, you can save yourself a lot of trouble here. You don't need to raise the barn up like this. You could just dig a trench and the mule could go in that trench and avoid hitting his ears. And the farmer said, look, the problem's with his ears, not his legs.
Check the time.
Okay, we're having a time check. Got time for one more.
Yeah, I have two quick stories, and these aren't jokes. These are witty things my husband has said. He was just always one to listen to what was being said and say things, a lot of times to diffuse the situation and catch us off guard. The first story is, my daughter Devin was about 12 years old, and we were in the living room, and my husband was outside, and I was having, a stern discussion with Devin. It was something we weren't meeting eye to eye on, and we were going back and forth a little bit, and I said to her, Devin, we just have to be patient with each other. I said, I have to be patient with you, and you need to be patient with me. At this point, John walks in on the tail end, and I said to her, patience goes both ways. And John, as he was walking by, says, so that means anybody who goes to the doctor is bisexual. Patience goes both ways. I'm like, I got mad. I was like, John, this is a serious moment. The other quick story was, we had been trying to conceive our daughter for a period of time. It was 10 years before we were blessed with her. But what ended up happening is I had a very stressful job, and it was Labor Day weekend, and we were at a friend's house. We were at a party and playing volleyball, and I slipped and I broke both of my wrists. Yeah, so I was home for a while unexpectedly, had a chance to rest and to read, and we were very blessed during that time. I was able to conceive Devin, and after we had her, after a period of time, folks were like, all right, so when are you gonna have a second child? And John would say, well, in order to have a second child, I'd have to break both her legs.
Break her legs.
That was for John.
Well, I believe we've run out of time for the service this morning. I'd like to say, in ending, that I hope that we've been able to blend laughter with the sadness that has come out, and come out with a healthy sense of what's good for us. And so, what, Carrie?
Turn it over to Jim.
Oh yeah, Jim, you ready to take it over?
Yes, John, thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Is the time when we will do our closing hymn, 414. So Cass and I will sing it.
And you can stand up.
Yeah, if you want to stand, fine. Those of you on Zoom, if you want to sing along, stay muted. And you can try singing along at church. We'll see if we can stay singing. As we leave this friendly place, love gives light to every face. May the kindness which we learn light our hearts till we return. All right.
Zoom doesn't work with music, does it?
After, let us take a 10-minute break and come back at 11:50.